socks, crumbs, toothbrushes, unopened mail, forgotten bills, laundry, what mealtime looks like in a family, after how many minutes someone responds to a text. All of these relatively small issues can escalate into big, painful, and complicated fights that not only hurt each partner in the relationship, but also prevent any constructive conflict resolution. Stay tuned to learn how and why this happens and what to do about it. Hey everyone, welcome to Becoming an Expert at Self-Leadership. I'm Maika and I'm a psychologist. Let's start out with an example. It's Saturday morning. Sue would like to go on an outing with John. They've had arguments about how they spend their time on the weekend before. Sue would like to experience more small adventures together. John feels tired from the week, sees all the yard work that needs to get done, and would usually rather stay at home. On this particular morning, Sue says, "Again, it's Saturday morning and we don't have any outing planned. I'm so tired of always having to be the one to initiate and make plans. Why can't you ever come up with something?" John says, "That's because you don't see all the work that needs to get done around the house and garden. I understand that we don't have the time to be out and about enjoying ourselves all weekend." Sue replies, "You need to reflect your priorities. Life isn't just about getting things done. And why do you care so much about what the yard looks like anyway? It's always just about making a good impression on the neighbors and visitors with you." John says, "I'm tired of this conversation. Stop making a big deal out of this. It's normal for families to be at home on the weekends, resting and taking care of the things that they didn't have time for during the week." At this point, John leaves the room. Sue follows him and says, "That may be normal for you and your parents, but it's not normal for everybody." And in this way, the fight can go on and on. It's tempting to now want to figure out who's right and who's wrong and who started it. That's usually how couples try to resolve their conflict. But finding one partner to blame isn't going to resolve the conflict, nor does it repair emotional injuries that were caused in the fight. And that's something that happens in all relationships. In strong, emotionally close relationships, couples have learned to catch and stop themselves from falling into escalating, spiraling fight loops, and also how to repair emotional hurt that was caused during the argument. But before we get into that, let's look closely at what happened in the example of Sue and John. This argument took place on two levels. Firstly, the surface level argument, the level of the factual disagreement. And secondly, the level of the relationship bond, the level of relationship needs and fears. On the explicit factual level of the fight, the surface level argument, Sue and John disagreed about how to spend their time on the weekend. On the level of the relationship bond, they disagreed about what kind of behavior from their partner makes them feel loved, cared for, seen, heard, understood, and respected. Sue voiced her irritation in an accusatory way. "Why can't you ever take the initiative and plan an outing?" She's not feeling seen and loved by the way the couple currently spends their time on the weekend, when each one goes about their chores and then rests individually. She misses John. She misses spending quality time with him. But this feels too vulnerable to say, so instead, she attacks, criticizes, and blames John. John feels hurt by this attack. It makes him feel like he can't ever get it right. He feels unappreciated and misunderstood and has the impression that Sue thinks he's a complete failure as a partner. To make this pain go away, John replies defensively. He wants to prove that he's not a failure and that he has good intentions. So he says, "Look, you don't see all the yard work that needs to get done." He's arguing on the level of the facts, but also He's arguing against the perception he thinks Sue has of him. This response gives Sue the impression that he doesn't understand her concern. She feels invalidated and is worried that John doesn't care about her needs. So she protests and says, "You need to change your priorities." Now, if you're just listening on the level of the facts, the surface level argument, you'd hear her disagreeing with how John thinks they should spend their time on the weekend. But on the second level of the relationship bond, she's also protesting and fighting to get her emotional needs seen and met. At this point, the argument has become too emotionally overwhelming for John, so he stonewalls, shuts down, and says, "This is a ridiculous argument to be having." He wants to protect himself from overwhelming emotional hurt, so he detaches from his feelings and leaves the situation. Sue follows him and demands to be heard. She continues to protest and argue about priorities and what's normal. And like this, the argument can go on without any resolution on either level. The surface level argument about how to spend their time on the weekend, and the level of the relationship bond, the quality of the relationship bond, and how to recognize and respond to each partner's needs. What you can do for your relationship, your partner, and yourself to stop these painful, escalating conflicts is to start noticing whenever you enter or you're in such a downward spiral. Address it as soon as you notice it. I think the way that we're talking about this right now isn't helpful. Let's take a break and get back to it in a few minutes in a helpful way. Then you can be really mindful about how you both address any irritation you might feel about any behavior of your partner, and also about how you respond when your partner expresses something that they're not satisfied with. It takes two to make conflict escalate. And if you learn how to express yourself and respond to your partner in a way that doesn't create heavy emotional damage, you can stop these downward spirals. The key point about addressing irritation, expressing something you're not satisfied with, is to dare to be vulnerable and address what's going on deep within you on this second level of the relationship bond, instead of attacking, criticizing, or blaming your partner. So in the example for Sue, this could have sounded like, "I miss spending time with you, John. I miss you. I miss having fun together and creating memories. I'd love to do something together with you on this weekend. Will you join me on an outing?" And no matter how Sue expresses herself, whether she does it in an accusatory, critical way or in a vulnerable, constructive way, it's helpful for John, and also Sue whenever John addresses her with a problem, to learn how to respond in a vulnerable way instead of counter-blaming or becoming defensive. So in this example for John, this could have sounded like, "I hear you, honey. You'd like for us to spend more time together. I love you too and enjoy spending time with you. At the same time, I'd like to mow the lawn this weekend and also chill a bit on the couch. Let's discuss how we can make all of this happen." It's crucial to be aware that beneath the surface level argument, there is communication taking place about the relationship, emotions, and needs. Everyone wants to feel loved, understood, safe to open up, respected, and valued. If you learn to be caring, kind, and to stay close on this level, also when you disagree on the surface level, it'll be much easier for you to resolve conflict, and both of your emotional needs will be met. which is the fundament of relationship satisfaction and personal well-being and happiness. If you'd like to learn more about this, I highly recommend this new book by Julie Menanno, Secure Love, Create a Relationship That Lasts a Lifetime. It's very, very good. Of course, you can also check out my relationship playlist for more on this topic. Till next time, take care. And remember to remain aware of and take care of each other's emotional needs, also when you disagree.